In this video, I will talk about the practicality of being a student at university and doing a job and how it's not related to what you studied, even if it's the same field. The first part of the video covers the areas where you could be spending time at university versus a job, the skills that it can teach you, and how it can program you. I will then briefly talk about the difference in purpose between the two and the dilemma that we face. And towards the end of the video, I will cover my recommendations to bring about systemic change. If I were to break down an average week in the life of a student who is doing, let's say, a numerate degree at university, they would be spending time at the lecture theatre, attending lectures on courses they have enrolled for, doing courseworks or assignments individually or with teams, depending on the nature of the module or course they have enrolled in, interacting with course mates during lecture breaks, or being part of a more social activity as part of the student union initiatives, spending time at the accommodation with people or uni friends, or deciding to keep to yourself, socializing with people, or studying or running errands in the weekend. These are the broad areas where people spend most of their time. Of course, you can voluntarily take up activities and decide to invest time there, but you are less likely to completely escape this list. Let's zoom in to understand what it means to be part of this list by taking an example each. If you are attending lectures as a routine, you will be habituated to taking notes on topics which have been taught for generations. As far as the content is concerned, the method of delivery may alter over time. So let's assume that you are doing a math degree and the content comprises formulae, theorems, axioms, and even a real-world problem using some statistical methods. Historically, the way teaching and learning has taken place is that the students assume that what they are taught is true, and they enter the classroom with the attitude to consume the information as learning. Now, I'm not saying that the theorems are incorrect. What I'm trying to point out is that the muscle that the students are repeatedly building is one of agreement with authority and not of inquisition and curiosity. There may be elements of getting to play devil's advocate, but a major part of your degree will not allow you to use that muscle. Doing courseworks alone just means that you're spending a lot of time alone in the library trying to get your head around what has been taught in the lectures. And many a times you have the baggage of how you learned subjects when you went to school. And that can just slow you down because people come from different schools, different cultures, and different backgrounds in general. Hence, allocating individual assignments actually creates a bias in favor of those who've been exposed to more accelerated learning methods. Doing courseworks as a team, which is randomly assigned, is in fact quite an enriching experience because you get to meet different people, understand different perspectives of the same problem, and enjoy some banter. I remember I was part of this group coursework, and even the way the problem was phrased was understood differently by a few of us. And I was like, wow, I didn't even consider that approach. Also, since you're working with people, you need to align with them and be more flexible with your approach. I have felt supported, relieved, and a lot more relaxed while working in groups. And if, let's say, you don't do well in an assignment, you will even feel supported in the failure. All of this is, of course, only true if you get to be part of a high-performing and responsible group. You can also find yourself being part of a lazy and low-performing group, which would then mean that you may have to do all the work yourself, or you get infected with their laziness and lose some zeal. This is also part of the learning experience, and ideally you don't develop an affinity for such groups, but it can teach you how to be in the presence of people you don't want to be like. One of the fun parts of being a university student is that you get to spend time with people from around the world, and university encourages you to do that. You can find people of the same ethnic group hanging out all the time, and that can be a limitation if you're trying to be in a comfort zone. University gives you a great opportunity to break the inherent resistance and socialize with people of different cultures, which is more enriching and makes you more interesting. Because if nothing else, you may have a story to tell your family about a culture they never interacted with. The student unions and general interaction with people on your course will also make you realize how, despite being brought up differently, people are similar and going through the same emotions, but they may express it differently. Having that exposure early on will help you develop empathy for individuals, and the genuineness of having experiences for longer periods will mean that you blend in with people more easily because they trust you. If, on the other hand, you are a loner or have been unsocial or been in your comfort zone and only socialized with a certain type of people. That can become your identity, and it will be harder for people to cut through that. People interaction is also possible when you are living in your accommodation or socializing with housemates. I had two different types of experiences, and they were both completely different worlds. In the first year of my university education, I was staying in a rented flat, which was not part of my university accommodation. And in the subsequent years, I lived with people in a student accommodation. People interaction and learning was significantly limited in the first year. However, the events and experiences that can take place when you live in an accommodation with people with more than 15 nationalities, and the exposure you will get is not something you can conceive or plan. You can be an introvert and not want to be part of everything, but you can pick the parts of the day and types of activities that suit your temperament and just do those. In my undergrad, I stayed in this accommodation called Cleves Hall, which was in Nottingham, and I got reminiscing with one of my friends when we met for lunch in London after a few years, and we both agreed that the breadth and depth of experiences that we had in there, it warrants an oh my god reaction, and to me it was pure wonderment. Let me know if you're interested and I'll make a video on that. Lastly, you will find that in the weekend, people will be going out for parties or socializing in some form, or running errands or studying, and they can do more of one of the options depending on their priority and general interest. You will also find some people who will be eating food in their room and watching TV on their laptop. This is a luxury to have, and you may want to question if you are doing that to avoid meeting people or facing another kind of discomfort, which is better faced earlier in life, because getting into the habit of facing discomfort will train your brain into seeing it as being okay, and more often than not it will lead to you learning something which you didn't know. Now let's talk about the skills you learn by being involved in doing these list of activities and how this programs an individual. With the routine that the curriculum follows, one is likely to get into the habit of parroting and asserting your mind to look at the complexity and use your will to understand it, instead of simplifying the complexity. It's as if you are considered more able if you can somehow penetrate through the black box, have some sort of clairvoyant skills, or if the system is designed to teach you mental assertion rather than to have the intention to problem solve in the easiest way possible. This consistent non-comprehension of complexity doesn't give you the opportunity to simplify everything that you've learned, and you are being programmed to either just learn and reproduce the material or solve it in a way that strains your mind, and you feel this is too hard and I'm not good enough. There is also the aspect where there is generally an expectation of agreement with authority, though there may be mild questioning, but our educational institutions are currently not built in a way where we get to use insights in a manner where we get to create things using our own individual creative abilities. Depending on how your course is structured, you can find yourself reinforcing older beliefs and ways of learning, which means that you are not unlearning. It can also help you to see things in a whole new light, have fun, feel supported, which are all things that help you grow and feel safe. Putting yourself in several such situations can help you trust people more, and that's a good place to be in. You also learn the skill of being in the presence of different types of people and understanding the role player you want to be, because you will get to identify why a particular environment makes you more productive, and more importantly, opt for one that makes you feel good, as well as recognize certain habits that can suck your energy. Whichever type of situation you pick more of will define your behavior even when you're working in a job. Several students will end up having great people skills because they decided to be around different groups of people that made them blend in more easily. For others, they will feel greater resistance depending on how they chose to interact with people and if they limited themselves to interacting with fewer groups. This is not about the number of people you're interacting with, but the reasons why you're avoiding certain groups and the quality of interactions, which is high if you're interacting for the right reasons. Being able to speak with different types of people with ease is a highly desirable skill, but one that is only learned by actually putting yourself in those situations, spending time with people and conversing with them. Being comfortable living alone is, in my view, an essential skill to learn, but it's also important to not always be alone, as that can make you inflexible. Living with people means being a witness to and part of different experiences and allowing those experiences to shape you over time. You may also learn that you are consciously consciously avoiding certain experiences. Depending on what you choose repeatedly, that can become your identity. Finally, you will learn that how you spend your free time, whether it's by doing more coursework or revising lecture notes, partying or socializing with people, or finishing your chores, it will be an important decision that you will be making. Because university is a time when the structure of life is such that you are always surrounded by people in some way or the other. The repetition of what you're doing when you have free time in university is programming you to do that. So later in life, when you're in a different life situation and you have some downtime, you will be gravitated towards that which has been more familiar. Now let's look at the week structure of someone who's employed in a job. Broadly, it can be grouped under being part of project work where you're expected to solve the company or customer problems, interaction with and management of relationships with bosses, colleagues, and people under different departments, spending time over spoken and written communication, interaction with people over lunch and events, as well as social etiquette, doing personal bookkeeping. I want to start by highlighting that the process of hiring and job interviews is incongruent to how you have functioned at university. Think about it. The common questions that one is asked at interviews, including why do you want to apply for this role in this company? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Or where do you see yourself in 5 years? Are all about another entity, a company in this case, even if they don't make it sound like that. And how you've been used to operating so far is about yourself, your personal development, your grades, your specific interest in certain subject, your idea of how you manage your time. Now, suddenly it has become about the company, and it's a pretty significant shift to start investing in something which is not you. Quite obviously, you're not prepared to take that sudden leap, so you adopt the fake it till you make it route and lie at job interviews. Is it so terrible to speak the truth and still get to secure a job? So let's say I answer the first question to the effect that at this point in time, since I'm new to the data consulting world, I would like to learn from others on the job and potentially use what I have learned in my degree to experiment if it can even be applied, but more importantly, use the analytical mindset than the specific methods taught in my degree so that I can explore and design the problem. I will most certainly need help with translating that in business terms as I don't have any experience in that area, but I would love to grow into it. I know that this company has subject matter expertise in media management, and I hope to engage with experts to see if I can link the solution that I design to their business specific needs. This answer is closer to the truth because you're not trying too hard to show to the employer how big a fan you are of the company you haven't even spent any time working for. However, the way our system is designed, the students who are right out of university will be fearful to question authority and will instead comply to then answer questions in a manner that sound right rather than being authentic. Also, let's assume you are hired as a data or business analyst. The problems you solve at uni are more intensive in the sense that initially you may feel that you were using more mental capacity when you were doing your courseworks or studying for exams. What you end up doing in a job is in the beginning not so complex, so it confuses you as you have been used to asserting your grade, and intellectual victory is more sought after as your mind is used to it. Essentially, the approach towards problem solving is different at university versus being in a job. In a job, it's a lot about listening to people and understanding the problem. It will not be given to you written on a piece of paper, and even if it is, not meant to solve it alone. Also, it may feel like your goals are less fulfilling because you had more control over them in uni where you can select them more specifically. Whereas in a job situation, your goals will have to factor in the company needs. One of the big differences between studying at uni and being in a job is that in the former, your role is about management of the self and the different subjects that you've enrolled in. Whereas in a job, your role is about management of the self and the others. The others being your bosses, different departments, your colleagues, your stakeholders, and usually this is not optional because your role is dependent on the company. This activity requires a breadth of skills like self-understanding, articulate communication, listening to people, surrendering your opinions, and being okay to not know, which for you may not all come together so beautifully when the stakes are high. These skills are not deliberately taught in school and uni unless you were to take a separate course on them. So someone who takes up employment may assume that I can be good technically and not worry about the softer skills because they sound so easy. People are very intelligent. If you are being insincere at any point in a conversation, you cannot fake it. And that awareness comes with self-understanding. Following on from my second point is another area where you will invest time when in a job. This is your spoken and written communication. The words you use, how you frame sentences, the way you speak, your body language will determine how you are perceived. And I don't mean it in an artificial way or for effect. The sincerity of your intention will be communicated when you speak with people.